Hello, my YouTube friends and book lovers, and fellow book lovers. Today, my video is going to be on some of my favorite books I read in high school, that I read with my classes in high school from 9th to 12th grade. And, yeah. So, the first one would be To Kill a Mockingbird, which I know a lot of people like. And actually, I just got this a couple of years back, and look, it's all tattered already. Which I've read it a couple of times since. But what I like about it is that it's not just a book that you read. You can also learn about human nature within it. And the main subject I like about this is that the character of the father, Atticus Finch, he would always tell his kids to just think about how other people feel, like walk in their shoes, instead of just being like, oh, they're old, or they're homeless, they're so many different things that you can think of people before even getting to know them. And that's what I like about this book. And just let me read what it says in the little piece on the back to you guys. The unfortunate novel of a childhood in a sleepy southern town and the crisis of conscience that rocked it. To Kill a Mockingbird became both an instant bestseller and a critical success when it first was published in 1960. Wow, that's a good, like, 60 to 2018, like 30, 40, no, 70, 60 years ago? A good 60 years ago that this has been made. If I'm wrong, you guys can correct me. It went on to win the Pulitzer Prize in 1961 and was later made into an Academy Award-winning film. Also a classic, compassionate, dramatic, and deeply moving. To Kill a Mockingbird takes readers to the roots of human behavior, to innocence and experience, kindness and cruelty, love and hatred, humor and pathos. With over 18 million copies in print and translated into 10 languages, this regional story by a young Alabama woman claims universal appeal. And then it just has a couple lines about the author, which I will read too. Harper Lee always considered her book to be a simple love story. Today it is regarded as a masterpiece of American literature. And why I liked reading it so much in high school was that it really made me think of how we as humans can be classified into different class systems, like, oh, rich, poor, middle class, or the LGBT community, or ranking in church, like the minister, the deacons, the minister, the deacons, the bishops, the archbishops, the all that kind of stuff, and be classified into different age groups, different races, different just all the different walks of life we are. And also it gave me a look into just because of gosh, I can't think of her name. Scout. I loved how it showed that Scout loved reading at such a young age, and that she wasn't just going to stop because the school system told her to. Oh, and by the way, don't mind the 15% off Target sticker. I just never took that off after I bought it. Anyways, yeah, I love the part about how, and not only that she wanted to wear pants and not dresses, and just be herself, and not let anyone tell her how to be, which I think we need a lot more of that in today's society. The second book, which might surprise all y'all since I'm a young woman, and most women probably wouldn't classify this as a favorite book, but wow, it changed so much in me. And that's All Quiet on the Western Front, which is about about Paul Bremer, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, which he was part of the German army in World War I. And this just gave me a view on war that made me change my mind about war and just how it changes people. Because in the beginning, Paul was just so really, I don't know how to describe it. Paul was at the beginning, Paul was just so for going out to war and being away from his family and parents. But then as soon as he came back, which I think was closer to the middle than the end of the book, when he came back and saw that his mom was sick, and how that throughout the book he lost a couple of his friends, it just showed me how much soldiers, and not just the U.S. military, but all militaries have to go through just to keep their wits about them during war. Another good book on human nature, whether you think human nature is bad or good or otherwise. A very, very good book on human nature, and just probably one of the greatest books of all time. I'll read you the review from the New York Times on this book. The world has a great writer in Eric Marie Remarque. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. He is a craftsman of unquestionably first rank. A man who can bend language to his will, whether he writes of men or of an inanimate nature. His touch is sensitive, firm, and sure. And then I'll read you what was on top of that. Just one of the, not passages from the book, but one of the other things that the back of the book says. Through years of vivid horror, Paul holds fast to a single vow: to fight against the principle of hate and meaninglessly pits young men of the same generation but different uniforms against each other. If only he can come out of the war alive. So, as I said before, you might think it's weird for a young woman to put this as one of her most life-changing books that she read in school. But with having so many people in my family in the military, it gave me a whole new outlook on what military stood for. And even though some of it is meaningless just because of the different laws we have, doesn't make people in the military, men or women for that matter, monsters, because they're fighting a meaningless war just because of different opinions of laws. And again, this is a story from World War I. So not only is it a fiction book, fiction book, I'm pretty sure. It also puts history in it, which you don't get much history in English class. So this was a very, very good book that has changed my life. And if I could go back to read it for the first time again, I would. But there's no way to do that yet that I know of. The same with To Kill a Mockingbird. I'd go back and reread To Kill a Mockingbird again for the first time, because it was just so heartfelt and uplifting. Well, I can't say that about All Quiet. Both have changed my life for different reasons, and changed my view on the world for different reasons. And with that being said, these two books are done being covered in this video. On to probably the most well-known and well-loved books that pretty much all high schools have at least one grade read, and that's Romeo and Juliet. And I know for women they probably like it most because it's a love story, but for me, though I'm not really into violence, I love how, I think it was Mercutio, stood up for Romeo when the Capulets started attacking him. And just, I think my favorite line of all, of course, probably all people who like Romeo and Juliet, is scene 2, I think, act 2? No, it wasn't Mercutio. It was Benvolio, I think. I can't remember who stood up for, anyway. I'm trying to find the exact line. Is this still Act 1? Yeah. So I need to get to act dos and scene dos. And my favorite line, or favorite line in, of course I picked the probably the most loved scene in the whole play, in the Caplet's orchard. And I like the part where Juliet was saying that